Hello, and thank you for joining. This is the Ask the Experts for DB129. This is a continuation of the session, Responsibly Scaling Power Apps with a Low-Code Center of Excellence. And we'd like to thank you all for joining today. Okay, so we have a set of experts on hand to answer some questions from you. So how to engage with those experts? You can use the chat feature in the module to ask your questions. So please just submit those questions. They will appear to all attendees once our moderator has actually approved them. So you'll send them to us. Our moderator will take a look at them. Some of them will be answered verbally, and others we can answer over the chat and publish those out. If you see some questions that are your favorites or that you want to hear more about, make sure you use the thumbs up icon to vote for those. And as we see questions with more of the votes, then we'll make sure to prioritize those. At the end of the session, we will also have a slide up that will provide some additional resources of where you can go next after the event to learn more. Okay, so from an etiquette perspective, this session is being recorded. So please help our moderators by not spamming or posting any inappropriate comments in the chat. And we also have a code of conduct that we'd like to have everyone adhere to. So I'm going to go ahead and just share that code of conduct now so you can see and read through it. But I do want to call out again that we do not want any photography, video, or recording of the session. We are recording the session here. We will make it available post-event for on-demand consumption, so it will be available for anyone. And what I'd like to do now is I would like to introduce the experts that will be answering our questions today. So I'm going to hand it over to Phil to go ahead and do an introduction.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for coming today. So we're here to talk about admin and governance in the Power Platform. My name is Phil Topness. I'm on the PowerCat team at Microsoft. That's the Power Apps Customer Advisory team. And we're a small team in Power Platform engineering that works with the largest organizations around the world that are deploying Power Platform. I'll turn it over to Numa.
Hi everyone. My name is Anupama. I'm the Group Program Manager for Power Platform Governance. And a lot of features you saw in the session today, my team's been actively working on those. Very excited to connect with everybody and looking forward to a great Q&A session here. Over to Andrew.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Bibby. I'm an MVP for BizApps, primarily with Dynamics 365, but also Power Platform, Power Apps. And I'm here to help answer questions.
Fantastic. Manuela.
Hello, hi, I'm Manuela. I'm also part of the Power Apps Customer Advisory team, so I'm a colleague of Phil's.
Great, thank you for joining. And I think our other experts will be joining in other sessions. So it'll be the 4 of you today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just have our slide set on the resources slide. And we'll hand it over to Phil to moderate and start going through the questions.
And thanks again. I think before we get to the questions, let's just kind of level set on what a center of excellence is in the context of the Power Platform. And does anybody want to kind of give us that introduction on, what does a center of excellence mean?
I can speak to that. So I think there's sometimes a confusion. I've seen it in the chat as well, that we have an offering called the COE Starter Kit, and that doesn't represent the COE. When we talk about a COE, we mean a department or a function within your organization that looks after the Power Platform adoption and that has many roles, such as looking after the administration and the governance, looking after the strategy and vision, making sure that the Power Platform strategy is aligned with the digital transformation strategy of your organization, and then looking after the support and nurture of your makers. So COE can take on many shapes and forms, and it can start with one person, and it can scale to like 20, 30 people that are part of your center of excellence. So it's mainly the function of and the department that looks after that scaling. The COE Starter Kit is a collection of templates and tools that can help with those efforts, but a COE itself is much more than tools. It involves the people, the processes, and very often a change in culture in your organization.
Thanks for that. Well, let's get to some of the questions. So the first question is there a demo available of the COE toolkit?
No, there isn't at the moment. So, but you can install it in a trial environment to test out some of the capabilities. And our docs, AKMS/COE Starter Kit, contains screenshots of all the different components, or of all of the applications and all of the dashboard pages that are part of the COE kit, so you can see and get familiar through the documentation. And we also have some really great recordings where you can see the COE Starter Kit in action. All of that is part of the documentation, and I'll just pop that into the chat window as well now.
That's great. Another question. Currently, we're governing all aspects such as environment, makers, apps, flows, and connections. Is there any way we can govern portals in the tenant?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of monitoring capabilities are getting extended to portals as well as we go. So as admins, that'll allow you to get full visibility on where are your portals, what is their usage, and so on. So hope that helps with the governance aspects for portals as well. Manuela, do you want to add to it at all?
No, I think that was perfect.
And here's a good question related to the Project Oakdale announcement that we all heard at Ignite. With the latest update for Project Oakdale, behind the scenes, it creates new environments, type Microsoft Teams. How do we apply governance here? And this person says that they deactivated that environment creation because they were concerned. We deactivated environment creation by non-administrators, which was ignored. They're concerned about uncontrolled growth.
Great question. I do understand that some of the scale concerns come up with the new Teams integration. So a couple of things to make a note of. There is a scale limit to the number of environments every tenant can grow to, tentatively around 500 environments. And then the good news is that all of your governance controls, like for example, if you have DLP policies that you have in place to govern and protect your default environment, these same constructs also span the new Teams environments. So you should be able to leverage the existing constructs, the existing security and monitoring goodness to Teams environments as well. And there are a lot of other specific features that come to the rescue with the new Teams environments, including environment lifecycle management, which is quite automated under the hood. As an example, like if your Teams gets deleted, the associated environment will also get auto-deleted with the team. There is inactivity-based cleanup of the environment. Also, the security role management is pretty much automated. So there are specific security roles that get auto-created and auto-populated as your team's owners, members, and guests get added or removed from the team. And just like citizen developers, your citizen team owners get to play the system admins for a limited, simplified set of settings associated with the environment. So there is a lot of thought put into making sure that these new environments don't create a scale and management overhead for you, as well as all of the security constructs that are you're familiar with in Power Platform, they extend to the new Teams environments. And not only that, there is a bunch of Teams admin center controls that your Teams admins will have access to that you can collaborate with them on with respect to who you want to provide as a user access to these new Power App and Power Virtual Agent integrations, both at a tenant level and, as I mentioned, at a per user and going forward at a per group level. So lots at your disposal to actually effectively manage these environments.
Are there any plans to include more Power BI monitoring tools in the Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit?
So our team looks primarily after Power Apps and Power Automate. So at the moment, we are focusing really on kind of bringing more of the newer capabilities like UI flows and Power Virtual Agents to the COE Starter Kit. So there's an update landing later this week where UI flows will be included. Power BI is currently not in scope. One of the really exciting things that we're looking at going forward is opening up the development of the COE Starter Kit, so making it fully open source and accepting community contributions to the code, so that that would then give other developers an opportunity to develop kind of the Power BI enhancements, and we could bring them into the kit through that.
Is there any governance guidance for Office 365 or M365 E3 licensed orgs that only have the default environment?
Sure, I can speak to that. So I think the session that Ryan covered speaks to the heart of it, that as you look at engaging your community in the default environment across your organization, as well as leverage a lot of in-product experiences that Office products have by way of dependency on Power Platform. This is an effective tool which you can govern very effectively using a lot of data exfiltration capabilities that we have in play. Rand spoke to tenant isolation that allows AD connections inbound and outbound to your tenant to be effectively controlled by you as an admin. Similarly, we have the new SMTP header capability that has been recently introduced, wherein you can set up exchange rules to make sure emails being sent out of Power Platform, Power Automate cannot be exfiltrated outside of your org. The granular DLP controls, not only did we GA the ability to block a lot of third-party, first-party connectors, you do have the ability now going forward to have more granular controls on DLP for connectors. So those would include things like, as the session spoke to, per action control on connectors, endpoint controls on connectors. We are also going to work upon connection sharing controls for admins, where implicitly or explicitly shared connections can be governed by the admins. So that these gamut of features, including Microsoft Information Protection integration that we are looking at in the upcoming Wave 2 semester, that should go a long way in making sure that you can engage your organization very effectively in the default environment. And we have a new best practices guidance. There is a good section on environment strategy, which also lays down best practices on how best to govern your default environment. Do take a look at it, and hopefully it sets you up at a good place.
So the next question's not directly related to the COE Starter Kit, but it's definitely highly voted and a good topic relating to governance. Brandon says, I'm a technical lead, but I tend to have difficulty trying to explain when it's appropriate to use Power Automate or Logic apps and explain it in a way that IT leadership and business folks both understand. Anybody have a take on that? I mean, I could certainly give my take on it. A big difference is, with Power Automate, you will have per user run limits on how many API calls or actions you can have in it. Whereas in Logic Flows, you have the ability to extend farther, right? Because you're paying per action. And so there's different licensing model, which is definitely one difference. Also, when we're talking about governance, like things like, and Nupama, keep me honest here, things like data loss prevention apply to Power Automate, but don't apply to Logic App, because I think the assumption is that the Azure tenant is the kind of the security there to prevent people from doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the goodness of security, monitoring, reactive governance, etc., that is seamlessly extended to Power Automate, as well as going forward, all of the new resource type, Power Virtual Agents, UI flows would be under the umbrella. So exactly right, Phil. Thanks for sharing your thoughts there.
Another question, how do you, quote, sell an organization on using the Power Platform Center of Excellence? And are there any good case studies available from Microsoft?
Do you want to take that, Nana?
Yeah, sorry, just unmuting. So we had a really good session at Embers, and I'll take that up for the chat window after, where we've had both Schlumberger and GSK share their experience of establishing a center of excellence through their adoption. So they've seen great success in initially adopting the Power Platform on top of SharePoint and Excel, and then they went on that journey to establish a center of excellence where, in the case of Schlumberger, they've now got digital cells within many of the business units, for example, HR, that take care of the needs of the digital transformation needs within that business unit, and they have a close link to their central IT organization to, be in line with their governance needs as well. But they're like local in that business unit, and they manage the backlog of applications there as well. So I'll paste that link in, and that also includes some other case studies as well from organizations like SNCF and Standard Bank that have successfully established a center of excellence. I think the key thing to note here is that kind of no one flicks a switch and has a center of excellence. It's always a journey. Some of the organizations like Standard Bank, they've started with a COE of 2 people. They've laid down the foundations, they've secured the platform, and then they've monitored what was going on. And on top of that, they've shared success stories and started to evangelize the use of the platform to kind of grow their adoption, but also the business value that they are getting from the Power Platform.
That's great. I'm going to combine several questions. There's still a lot of questions about Project Oakdale, understandably, because it's an exciting announcement. And so let's dive into that again and talk a little bit about what the Center of Excellence capabilities are for teams. But there's also questions on what are other ways for administrating these environments within teams. Can creation of teams environments be restricted? How are they included in the COE metrics? And so I think there's just kind of a lot of general questions around how to administer and govern and also measure the use of Power Apps in Teams, Project Oakdale.
Right. So I briefly mentioned about full DLP parity for Microsoft Teams environments, as well as any other security constructs. For example, in the session today, you heard about tenant isolation, SMTP header capabilities to block email exfiltration. All of these security constructs are available for Teams environments as well. The monitoring capabilities that you have through the Power Platform Admin Center in terms of analytics for Canvas apps, API flows, etc., they are all extended to Teams environments. Some of the scale challenges we will tackle in analytics reporting as well to provide a drill down starting right from the tenant level to an environment type level. So not only can you go to a specific individual Teams environment, or for that matter, a production environment, you can look at the usage and monitor apps and flows and going forward PVAs from your Power Platform Admin Center by environment type. So you can say, show me the usage across all of the team's environments as an example, or show me the tenant hygiene report going forward for all of team's environments and so on. And very importantly, what I would like to re-index on is a lot of environment management for teams is on autopilot. So environment lifecycle management, we try and take away the burden from you as a central IT admin team, having to keep an oversight on every single individual environment. They come and they go with the team's team. The user management is fairly simple in the sense you're hands off as people join the team in various capabilities, as an owner, as a member, as a guest. The security role management automatically happens under the hood, so you don't have to worry about it. We have simplified settings quite a bit. Only a few handful of the settings that need to be actively managed are exposed through Power Platform Admin Center. All of your team's owners automatically become system administrators. Similar to the citizen developer concept, there is the concept of citizen administrator who can perform sort of daily bookkeeping tasks for these teams' environments. Last but not the least, there is a scale limit to how many new teams environments will be spun up in a singular tenant. So it's not going to be like 100,000 environments as a case in point. Right now, tentatively, that limit is going to be 500 odd environments. And you can collaborate very closely with your team's admins to make sure if there is an initial rollout as you get your hands into the mix and want to ensure more graceful rollout, you can identify a select set of makers and ensure that the Power App, Power Virtual Agent apps, which now have embedded maker experiences using Teams admin controls, you can target a select set of makers in the initial phases. And as you get more comfortable with the feature set, then you can go and expand it to your larger organization. So a lot of effective Teams Admin Center controls for managing apps through permission policies. They are your friend, and this is also a great opportunity for all of the admin community to work together in the org across Teams and Power Platform on how best to adopt these features.
Let me add on let me bring in another question here. So you mentioned the 500 environment limit for Teams. And one question is this person says that they already have 2,000 teams. And so can you talk a little bit about the roadmap to increase that, assuming that all of those teams are going to have environments within them, Power Apps environments?
So the environments don't get spun up immediately, only if there is a maker activity by way of somebody trying to launch Power App Maker experience and associate it with a particular Teams channel, or we have a bunch of template apps that have been introduced by Microsoft, and a few more will be coming as the ISV community, etc., gets engaged. Only and only then does a new environment get spun up corresponding to your team. So hope that explains, like if you assume like of the 2,000 odd environments that you spoke of, there will be approximately, 2,000 teams that you spoke of, there'll be a attach point of about like 20%, 25%. So the 500 number should play well. And we watch the telemetry around it. Obviously, you can always go from the Oakdale SKU to a CDS full SKU, and the promote ability is available, whereby you can extend the number of environments at play if needed.
Great, that makes sense. Thank you. Next question. For organizations that have made this process successful, should it be a full-time job for at least one person? Or have any organizations been successful with a more minimalist approach, with only a part-time person managing administration and governance?
Would you want to speak to it, Manuela?
Yeah, I can take a step, and then Phil, you can provide some input from your experience as well. So like I said earlier, I think typically we see this being a journey. So very often the administration starts maybe with the modern workplace admin or the Dynamics admin looking after the Power Platform as well, and then kind of securing it, laying down good foundations, and then monitoring the adoption. And as the business grows in the value that they get from the Power Platform, as the activities grow beyond maybe just laying down the foundations, but also looking at automation, looking at DevOps. Sometimes those organizations would then look at establishing a COE or establishing a Power Platform admin team. Sometimes there's also kind of requirements to hand applications over to a full-time support team, and then obviously that would then be a full-time department. So I would say there's a variety of functions and department sizes that we see in this space. Phil, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think we typically see that, at least in larger organizations, that there are multiple players for different elements of the controls. And we also see that it's a more of a job up front, right? As you're defining your policies and figuring out, with this new technology, the role it plays and how you want to control it. And then it's usually less of a job once it's running, right? Once you have your policies defined and you have the center of excellence, and how you want to monitor and what you want to monitor. So I think we've kind of answered the question, right? It is possible with only a part-time admin for a smaller organization, but for larger, more complex organizations, it usually involves people from across different elements of the organization. The next question is, what kind of license do users of the Center of Excellence Starter Kit need? And they've especially asked, what about the app and flow classification part, which strives for literally all employees? In my opinion, the per user per app licenses are not economic here. Manuela?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's feedback that we hear quite frequently. So at the moment, the COE Starter Kit is built on top of CDS. So all users would require a premium license. So for example, a per app license for some of those applications that need to be shared with the entire organization. We're looking at some of the more nurture-focused components that are maybe shared with the entire organization, making them available on a free data source, or making it so that you can customize it more easily. So obviously the clue is in the name. It's a starter kit. So we see a lot of organizations just use it as inspiration and as a template, and build their own processes and apps kind of with it or inspired by it to suit their needs and the settings that they have in their organization. But yeah, so at the moment, out of the box, it does require a per app or per user license for everyone using it.
Let's see, I see we're coming close on time. Let's ask, this is a good question, a good general question. Is there an actual virtual class or in-person training on administering the Power Platform, setting up governance? I prefer this type of training versus clicking on different websites.
Yes, we do have the admin in a day training, so that material is available for you to download, so you can try that out. But we also have partners who deliver that training, either kind of for your organization or sometimes as part of an event.
Great, and let's come back to Project Oakdale. A question from that's been voted up by some people that are either less excited about Project Oakdale or so excited that they think it's going to take off. What are the features to turn off the Microsoft Teams environments? My organization adds app to the team channel and it is creating a lot of new Microsoft Teams environments.
So the governance controls for the new integrations are exposed through Teams Admin Center. You can govern it at a tenant level using Manage Apps in the Teams Admin Center app controls. And for specific users and groups, you can block, unblock these integrations through the permissions policies in the Teams Admin Center app controls. There is in FAQs, etc., some links to these capabilities if you are not familiar with the Teams Admin Center app controls. But I'm sure as you speak to your Teams admins, they will be very familiar with these settings, and you can effectively work together to achieve a controlled rollout of these integrations. Hope that helps.
And it looks like we're at time. Thank you everyone for joining and for all of the questions and interaction and voting. And we hope this was useful to you and gave you some new thoughts on how to use both the admin and governance features in Power Platform, but also the Center of Excellence Starter Kit.
Thanks for the great questions.